In this WrestleTalk news, the real reason for Vince McMahon's retirement, more details on Triple H taking over creative, Luke's review of the beginning of the Triple H era Raw, and more. Subscribe and enable notifications to always on for daily wrestling news videos.
Support WrestleTalk!
The fallout don't stop coming, and it don't stop coming, and it don't stop coming with the news of Vince McMahon's retirement from WWE. With internal investigations and allegations made against the former chairman of the board, there's now been more details surrounding Vince and his decision to retire so suddenly. With the allegations from the Wall Street Journal articles indicating that Vince has previously spent over $12 million in hush money and NDAs, WWE's SEC filing noted something very interesting indeed, that WWE themselves had made a preliminary determination that certain payments that Vince McMahon agreed to make during a period from 2006 through 2022, including amounts paid and payable in the future, and that were not recorded in the WWE consolidated financial statements, should have been recorded as expenses in the quarters in which those agreements were made. Vince used company funds and didn't file them, essentially. The figure this came to was $14.6 million, and while the filing makes no mention of what the money was used for, you'd assume that considering the board was investigating these allegations of hush money, and now this has come out, maybe this has something to do with that. The filing notes right at the end that WWE has also received and may receive in the future regulatory, investigative, and enforcement inquiries, subpoenas, or demands arising from, related to, or in connection with these matters. Which in other words means that the SEC, the Security and Exchange Commission, are now also investigating these matters on a federal level. It's not just an internal investigation anymore. And this seems to be the primary catalyst in moving Vince's retirement along. According to Ted Mann and Joe Palazzolo of the Wall Street Journal, Vince's retirement was hastened due to these federal investigations. And yet there might be another factor at play here too. There's more reports to come out yet. PW Insider is reporting that more mainstream outlets are working on stories surrounding Vince McMahon right now, and they are expected to come to light soon, with more Wall Street Journal articles and a Real Sports report that Brian Alvarez described on Wrestling Observer Live as damning. As if all of this wasn't damning enough. While the fallout for Vince himself piles up, the retirement is still sending shockwaves through WWE, and there's still more coming. According to Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics, he's heard from many people that new co-CEO and chairwoman Stephanie McMahon and Kevin Dunn don't like each other, with Wade Keller of PW Torch also noting that Dunn isn't a Triple H guy, and that lack of solid reputation without Vince McMahon there anymore may come back to bite him, as Keller speculates that Dunn will be gone from WWE around a year from now. Kevin Dunn has been executive producer and chief of global television distribution in WWE for a long time now, and has been the primary production head for longer. He's the one responsible for this. I don't think people will miss him. There is so much more news that I don't have time for today, with WWE stock increasing dramatically, USA Network's reaction to Triple H taking over WWE Creative, a meeting Triple H had before Raw, and also more on Jonathan Gresham's AEW release request. So check out WrestleTalk.com for these stories and the latest as more news breaks. And now, hot tag to Luke.
And now it's time for my review of Monday Night Raw, aka the McMahon-Helmsley regime in 2000 was a spoiler not a prediction edition of Monday Night Raw, in about 5 minutes. So here it is, folks, the first show of the Triple H creative era of WWE. The first chance for the man who put together some of the best wrestling cards of the last decade to put his stamp on what has been, for the most part, the most stale wrestling product of the last decade. And the show opened with what felt like the biggest change, a recap of something that happened before the show where Logan Paul and The Miz brawled ahead of their advertised segment later on. It did make the show feel more chaotic than usual, and was perhaps the best build of the night in terms of getting people invested in their SummerSlam match, though I think said advertised segment later on undid a lot of that. The show opened proper with Roman Reigns actually showing up for work, and Paul Heyman cutting the same promo about Reigns versus Lesnar we've heard for the last 7 years. Theory came out and Roman got a jibe about his daddy not being here anymore, which prompted the crowd to chant "Who's your daddy?" at Austin Theory. Roman warned Theory about cashing in at SummerSlam and then stopped Jay from attacking him after he bumped him lightly with the briefcase. This was your standard Roman Reigns segment, but there was something slightly different about it. Reigns has always played off the crowd more than anyone else on the roster, who has to be a pre-programmed robot when it comes to crowd reactions. But honestly, this was the segment on the show that stood out the most for the first day of Triple H's run. With that said, it could just be that Roman is, like his t-shirt states, on a different level to everyone else. So while this did feel different, there's every chance this segment would have been exactly the same with Vince or Trips in charge. Theory then tried to cut another promo but was interrupted by Drew McIntyre for a match. The Money in the Bank holder who is challenging Bobby Lashley for the United States Championship this weekend, and the guy who could be the next contender for Roman Reigns at Clash of Clans in September. Well, I guess we better spin the wheel of bad finishes. Yep, it's a lame DQ to set up a tag team match after a commercial break. The more things change, the more they stay the same. Sheamus and his bunch of lads attacked Drew for the DQ, and Bobby Lashley ran down for the save to set up the match, which Bobby won by tapping out the guy he's facing for the United States Championship this Saturday. The more things change, the more they stay the same. For those who might not know, beating the Money in the Bank holder is a Vinceism, as in his mind, the guy with the briefcase will soon be a world champion, so all of his losses prior to that win will be forgotten about. So rather than build up Austin Theory, who needs all the help he can get because no one buys him as a top guy yet, they've beaten him every week on TV since he won. The man hasn't won a singles match on TV or pay-per-view since Hell in a Cell. And to add more insult to injury, he was then laid out by the Usos on the ramp after the match, so he lost twice and then got made to look like a chump. Maybe he is winning the title this Saturday. Rey Mysterio had a nice 20th anniversary segment where he got to name drop Dean Malenko and Conan, which popped me more than they should have, which turned into a tag team match with the Judgment Day, which the Mysterions won. Crowd really got into the finish, and it wasn't the end of the story for the evening, as Rhea Ripley made her return to WWE and Judgment Day laid out Rey in not one, not three, but two different segments backstage. It was later announced that the Mysterions will face Judgment Day in a rematch this Saturday. There were rumors that Edge would be on this show, but apparently he had travel issues, so it feels like they're saving that return for SummerSlam instead. Bianca Belair and Becky Lynch didn't get to do their promo segment as they brawled instead, which was simple and effective build for their match this weekend. And Alexa Bliss announced she was going to be targeting whoever wins between the two of them for the Raw Women's Championship following SummerSlam. I really hope this pays off, as Bliss is in desperate need of, well, a point. She then quickly beat Doudrop in a match that the commentators did their best to make it seem like Bliss was in trouble of winning, even though Doudrop hasn't won a match on proper TV since February 7th. After chatting with AJ Styles backstage, which was, essentially, AJ asking the crowd to please cheer Logan Paul came out to boos from the crowd. They also booed his brother, and the idea that he's hosting another talk show segment. And when Miz stood tall with the skull-crushing finale, the crowd chanted one more time, because Logan Paul does not work as a babyface. I really hope after SummerSlam they realize this and turn the douchebag heel. Even when he's cutting babyface promos, he looks and sounds like a heel. The dude is naturally unlikable, and the crowd want to boo him. Let them boo him. AJ Styles and Dolph Ziggler beat Alpha Academy in a fine little match, and the main event saw Riddle team with the Street Profits to take on the Bloodline, which got really good by the end. Ford got busted open during the match, WWE TV 14 confirmed, and Roman won by pinning Riddle with a spear that was so powerful, he pinned him for a 4 count. So that was this week's Raw, and honestly, it didn't feel all that different from the other shows in 2022. But then again, I wouldn't have expected it to. Rome wasn't built in a day. Neither was Roman Reigns when you think about it, and the Triple H era will take a little while to get going while the old guard of Bruce Pritchard and Kevin Dunn are phased out. Plus, this is the go-home edition of SummerSlam where everything is already in place. And as we all know from watching Raw for the last few years, scripts for Raw cannot change. Jokes aside, WWE haven't been strangers to reset episodes in the middle of pay-per-view builds in the past. You don't have to change every match on the SummerSlam card, but you could introduce something to this show to tell your audience this ain't Vinnie Mac's WWE anymore. You probably had a good number of people checking out the show this week. I am expecting a ratings bump following the Vince McMahon news, who normally wouldn't have watched Raw because Vince's WWE ran them off. And what did they see from this show? More of the same thing that would have driven them off in the first place. Did this show do enough to encourage those who might have given up on watching WWE to buy SummerSlam or tune in for next week's show to see the fallout of SummerSlam? I don't know, but I hope they do, because I do think things will change. It just won't be an overnight story. Roman Reigns wasn't built in a day. This week's Raw is 3 out of 5.
In this WrestleTalk news, a top AW star requests his release, another big AW name likely gone from the company, an update on Bryan Danielson returning from injury, the latest on Shane McMahon's WWE status, and more.